on the Texas A&M Sports Network. From Learfield IMG College, welcome to the Coach Jimbo Show, live from Rudy's Barbecue on Harvey Road in College Station. Presented by Capital Farm Credit. Together, we're better. Also brought to you in part by Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue. Visit Rudy's.com to find real Texas barbecue near you. AT&T, proud partner of Texas A&M Athletics. More for your thing. That's our thing. And by Bud Light. This football season, keep it crisp with Bud Light. Please drink responsibly. Now, here is the voice of Texas A&M football, Andrew Monaco.
Howdy. Thank you so much for being here. It's the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show, and it's presented by Capital Farm Credit. We are at Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road here in College Station. Before we move on, I just got to thank y'all all season long for being here. We really appreciate it. It makes for a great atmosphere and a great show. I've got the head coach of the Fighting Texas Aggies with me, Jimbo Fisher. Howdy, Coach.
Howdy, how we doing?
Once again this week they are here, as they have all
Thanksgiving,
season long.
on night before Thanksgiving, on holidays and everything else. It's amazing.
We thank you for joining us here. We thank you for joining us all along the Texas A&M Football Network and on Facebook Live. And Coach, as we get started, coming off the Georgia game this past Saturday, the 19-13 win for Georgia. I said this in your office this afternoon, and I truly believe this, watching this team all season long. I feel like this team has turned a corner, and more than that, Coach, I don't think there's ever going back. I think they've got it, and I can't wait to see what happens from here on out.
Well, I hope so. I mean, they played very hard. You could see it. I mean, no matter what the circumstances, they were laying on the line in all three phases, good, bad, and different, and kept playing. And it was an extremely competitive football game. They were a very good football team. I thought we were a very good football team, and still do. And got to find a way to make that final 2% or make a play here and there. But the competition, the physicality of the game up front on both lines got better in the second half. And our offensive line, our defensive line was doing a good job. Our tackling, running, the ability to compete. I mean, it was a true battling SEC football game, and on the road in tough conditions, which is you love to find out what you're made of.
Yeah.
And but there's no more victories. We got to find a way to make one more play and get that 20th point and handle our business. But proud of them, and hopefully we can continue to build a little bit on the competitive nature of how we played the game and the physicality.
There was a Buddy Johnson after that game. His tweet was he loves the fight and the fire of this team. We have talked about leaders time and time again. He has been one. Jamon on the offensive end, obviously Kellen, but when you see that kind of leadership, and it's more than just them, when you see that, that's all part of the growth of a team, isn't it?
Well, it is. And listen, when you to truly buy all in, people don't understand. I mean, I've been on some really great teams. I don't know if they truly had bought and all. I mean, I'm talking about lay your heart, your soul, I mean, every ounce of energy, blood, sweat, and tears on the field, mentally, physically, psychologically, and you're exhausted. I mean, there's nothing left to give, and those things are getting to that point. That's the folks that don't ever get to there, I actually feel sorry for that played athletics, because there's nothing. That's what athletics is about, committing all the way, not just to your, first of all, to yourself, to your team, to your teammates, and to feel that feeling and laying there and not knowing the results, not knowing how it's going to come out, but having the guts to go do it. And we're getting better at that, and then now we got to find a little bit more execution to go with it.
You were asked earlier this year, is the light bulb on? And you joked and said flickered. But when for a player as an athlete, you've been in this position where the tumblers all, it unlocks, right? You finally get it. And as a coach, as you keep pushing because you know what they can be as opposed to where they are, that's got to be quite a moment for both the player and as a coach.
Well, it is, and that's what a coach is. You see what a guy's capable of being, and that's your job. Your job is not to be content and be happy with where he's at. It's what he can be, and there's going to be uncomfortable moments, there's going to be pushing moments, but then there's going to be scared moments, even for the player. Can I really do that? Can this happen? Can this? And when you kids start to get to that point and realize that what they're capable of, it's a fun thing to watch.
Is that the grind that they have to fight? Part of the grind that they have to fight through?
And the mental breakthrough to have to get there, and that's what we're still continuing to build on. But it's getting there very quickly, and being in the program, and the more these young guys are really starting to get into it.
And then once they get it, Jimbo, as you said, everybody who comes into the program, everyone says this is the way we do it.
You as a coach, you set the standard, but those guys, they can point it out consistently to them. No, we don't do these things. This is the way we do things. This is the way we do things, and that's what I'm happy about, hopefully going forward.
We will talk more about last Saturday's game against Georgia. We will preview this Saturday's game at LSU. We've got a couple questions, as we always do. So much more. The Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit and brought to you by Bud Light, proud partner of Texas A&M Athletics, reminding you to enjoy responsibly. Stay with us. Much more to come. This is Aggie Football from Learfield IMG College.
To his right, throws for Osborne, got him at the 40. Wow, what a throw, what a catch.
Yeah, when my partner says what a catch, that's usually something good, and it was. Jamon Osborne with 9 catches in that game against Georgia. Season high for him in what's been a terrific season for Jamon Osborne and the Aggies. The Jimbo Fisher Radio Show is brought to you by Capital Farm Credit. Capital Farm Credit, together we're better. With the head coach of the Fighting Texas Aggies. We have our first check-in on Facebook, and it's from Effie Constantino. Now, if you look at the table, there is Greg, Nick's brother, and his cousin, Greg, are here from Melbourne, Australia.
That's awesome, man.
I told you we were going to get you on. Isn't that great?
That's awesome.
He watches every week on Facebook. They're here, and they will be going to Baton Rouge
Nick's
this
happy.
week.
I know he's happy as heck. It'll be a great one to go see.
It will be.
Nick's going to be a great player, man. He's doing great.
We talked a little bit about this. I want to talk a little bit more. You have been able to coach at LSU. You have been at Auburn. You are here at Texas A&M and Kyle Field. You made the comment before I left, there's just something about those stadiums, those atmospheres in Southern football, and it stayed with me, Jimbo, because if you follow the game and whether you watch on TV or you listen or you get the good fortune of being there, there's just something that separates college football from everything else.
It is. There's a passion, there's a love, and I mean it's like I say, what people they live their whole life and the whole year for those 12 weekends. To be able to go the away games, the home games, to be at those stadiums, and the atmospheres, the environments, and the SEC is checking it out. I mean, and all over the South. I mean, Florida State, Clemson, all those different places. I mean, they're all phenomenal, and it's just Southern football's a way of life. It's just part of the culture of. It's important, and it definitely is here at Texas A&M. We know that for sure. It will be in Baton Rouge and all those places, but to be able to go play in those environments and atmospheres, very blessed to be able to do that.
You said before you got here you hadn't had a chance to be at Kyle Field. Now you've made it home, haven't you? You've really made Kyle Field home.
Yeah. Oh no, I totally feel comfortable there. Exactly right.
LSU was special though for you, and we've talked about the people who are there, and that's what makes stadiums so difficult is the talent and the personnel can make it.
Yeah. For everybody says, "Well, that's a tough place to play." Well. What makes it a tough place to play? First of all, they got good players. When a team has good players, it makes it real tough to play there. If they don't have great players, it's not as tough to play. Now, they can yell and holler all you want, but when you combine all those things, you got great players, you got an atmosphere, you got an environment, and that whole these guys. That's why they come to play in the SEC. Mm-hmm. I mean, to go every weekend to get all the trips you get here in Kyle Field, and then Go play Florida, go play Georgia, go play Alabama, go play LSU, go play Mississippi State. I mean, just go everywhere. Tennessee, it doesn't matter. I mean, every place is phenomenal, and it's very unique. That's
why it was fun to be in Georgia for the first time as SEC members. It was really fun to go to that stadium.
First time you'd been there, huh?
No, actually, I had basketball game there. But I cut through to Stegman Coliseum. I had to go through the stadium, had to see the hedges and all of that. It was just a blast. But there's so much history and tradition, and that's what I love about A&M being in the SEC.
Exactly right. All the stadiums in the SEC and all the teams. I mean, the history and their rich tradition, and everybody's proud of their teams.
To look up and see the names and the numbers, and usually there's a ring of honor, or you walk outside Kyle Field and you see all those great names of all the All-Americans and all of that. I just think really brings it again from the kid. That was me. I was in front of that TV watching every Saturday.
Me too, exactly.
And there weren't a lot of games on at that time, so when you saw that, it was usually something special. They usually picked the best game.
And I know this sounds crazy. I mean, we all love to see our teams. I kind of liked it when you didn't have quite as many.
I'm with you.
I
know what you're saying.
The game of the week, and you had to be there, and you sat. I mean, it was a big deal to be able to be on it. I mean, it was kind of neat. I mean, I love all the attention and everything you get now, and everybody gets to see their teams, and you can watch them on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Saturday's kind of college football to me, you know what I mean? But it was back in those times, and when you thrive for information. Mm-hmm. I mean, you had to wait till the next day to get the paper to see who won. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine having to do that today? The kids now would go absolutely bonkers. They would have to go nuts to figure out who won what game and whatever. I mean, I remember getting a Sunday paper the next day, and to go through it and see which team won for the night games, because you didn't get that information.
No.
And you had the Prudential College scoreboard.
That's right.
You know what I mean? You had to.
That's right.
They always gave Slippery Rock score.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did.
Back when you were a kid, but that was neat remembering all that stuff.
Old Dave Dials for ABC, and remember getting that game. If you got the early paper, you didn't get the West Coast, all the West Coast scores.
And see, I always told the story. People don't realize this. Anthony Davis. You hear me tell the story all the time. Think about this. He lost the Heisman Trophy. He was playing for USC, and they were 1 or 3. Them and Notre Dame played, and one was 1, one was 3, whatever it was, at the end of the year. So the votes for the Heisman had to be in. Well, to get him in on time so they could be counted, everybody had to send him a week early. Mm-hmm. So they sent him before the last game, and it was number 1 versus number 3. Okay, Notre Dame goes up 24-6 at halftime. Anthony Davis comes out, runs the opening kickoff back, does his little knee dance in the end zone, scores 6 touchdowns in the game. USC comes back and wins it 55-24, and he finished second in the Heisman barely that year. And didn't get credit. That votes, people voted before that game ever was finished, because you had to get the information from California to New York. You had to send it a week early.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? Imagine that today.
Oh, how it has changed.
I mean, it's nuts.
It really is. He's the head coach of the Fighting Texas Aggies, Jimbo Fisher. We'll continue with the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. Stay with us. This is Aggie Football from Learfield IMG College.
better.
Courtney Davis with receptions. Courtney Davis came in as a punt returner, returned his punt 20 yards in place of Anaya Smith. Aggies in Georgia last week, the 19-13 Bulldogs victory over the Aggies. Up next, it's LSU this Saturday, and that will be a 6 o'clock kick, 5 o'clock for our pregame show, our CHI St. Joseph Health pregame show. Football and barbecue lovers know the perfect brisket needs the right wood. Rudy's smokes all their meats using their delicious signature rubs in 100% oak-fired pits. Get your real Texas barbecue fix today at Rudy's or on the web at rudys.com. That's where we are for the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. I'm going straight to this question from Steve, Jimbo, because it goes back to what we talked about in our first segment. What have you learned about the character of this team from fall camp to the final game so far this season on the schedule?
I think they want to learn. They're hungry. They're ambitious. And there's a lot of want to in there. We just got to keep educating how to get to and keep bringing it out. But I think that's what I said. It's a very high character team. We have really good kids. I say kids, but you're a good young man on this football team. You
were very measured, I thought, on Monday, and I thought it was because you wanted to make sure it was the right words. But you were asked about Jamon Osborne, and I think the way you described Jamon would make any coach, parent, friend proud. Jamon is someone special, isn't he?
He really is. I mean, he gets it. I mean, he is a great player and an individual, but he thinks team. He thinks about his teammates. He thinks, what can I do to help? Whatever I need to do. You know, if I'm not going to be the star player this week and get this route, and every route's designed to you. Some guys, they don't like that, or get the ball all the time, or I get to make all the tackles. You know how they go. Okay, coach, what do I need to do? Even if he doesn't like you, you got a guy who's extremely professional, but his high character and who he is and what he is. Then on top of that, he's a highly intelligent, competitive, and tough. And you just can't say enough good things about him.
And you mentioned he is not afraid to do the unsung things.
Yeah, exactly. You watch him. Every play, blocking it. He'll go in there like a tight end. He'll go in there and cut off. He'll go in there and cut the big guys. He'll block linebackers. He'll block defensive ends. He'll block whatever he has to do, specialty, whatever he has to do.
Ian has his question. Both those guys had a question each week. Ian says, to you as a coach, what's the most important stat in college football?
It's still turnovers. Mm-hmm. When you get right down to it, turnovers. But the other one is really emerging into that people don't realize, because we always talk about third down red zone, is big plays, chunk plays, the huge plays that change the game, because you're getting so many dynamic players now. Remember, you say, well, you got to have time of possession. You controlled that ball. Well, if you go look, a lot of teams are scoring points, and we average 34 a game. We're in the top 30, 25 in the country. But we do it with a little more ball control. And I've been on teams when we were at Florida State, we averaged 53, 54 points a game. Mm-hmm. And we held the ball 22, 23 minutes a game. It was bang, bang, bang. The game has changed so much because it's so open. So I think the turnovers will still affect the game more than anything, but big plays is right there with it. The ability to stop big plays and chunk plays and be able to create them on offense.
And how you react to them, right?
Oh, yeah. To manage them, the crisis of management, when you get them to finish drives, and when you give them up to, as we say, is crisis management. You know what I mean? Don't let it become total disaster. You know what I'm saying? Just manage the crisis and keep it to a field goal or a situation where they got to do things, and not let that momentum build. Because that's the other thing. The momentum, the other thing no one talks about, too, is momentum. When you're an 18 to 22-year-old kid, just like they had in the first half, we had it in the second half. You could see it, the game changing, and you get those rolls, and people don't understand how flow and the ebb and flow of a game and the momentum, the consistency of executing plays and hitting those big plays. And once kids get going, they start doing things, man, they feel good. A quarter ago, you didn't look nothing like that. And the people say, how does that guy have? Man, it's just like in life. You get confidence, and all of a sudden you feel good about yourself. And then it just takes a little something. That's why coaches, we're always on edge. We're griping about the littlest things because we know that can flip the momentum. Right. You know what I mean? Right. And once you got it, don't go crazy. Just keep doing what you're doing. Those things are hard to keep.
And that's why you talk three phases, because the special teams can be that momentum changer.
How you flip the field. Mm-hmm. Essence, to start that game last week, for instance, we got a 3-and-out. I feel very good. Their daggone punter hits one about 65 yards and kicks it all the way back there, and we get the ball inside the 20. He flipped the field position on us really quick. Right. You know what I mean? That's what man does for us so many times. Those things, but just a kick or a return or a block kick or a missed kick, and it just any little thing. You know how it is. When you think about your kids at home, when everything's going right, and all of a sudden you look at them, and 5 minutes ago they were happy. Now they act like it's the end of the world. Well, you players are like, and that's where you talk about maturity. You keep, I talk about maturity to players and learning to play the next play and ignoring the clock and ignoring the scoreboard. Just keep playing, right. Keep doing what you're doing. There's learned behavior to winning games and all that, and kids have to understand that.
Still more Jimbo Fisher Radio Show presented by Capital Farm Credit to come from Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road here in College Station. Stay with us. This is Aggie Football from Learfield IMG College.
For the Aggies, back at the 15-yard line, Justin Matabike. Boy, good coverage downfield. They tried a go route, and Oliver right there. Never had a chance to throw it anyway, but sacked for the Aggies, and they'll be forced to punt it, will Georgia.
Justin Matabike with the sack, part of that disruptive defensive line for the Aggies in their game against Georgia last Saturday, taking on LSU this Saturday. AT&T is a proud partner of Texas A&M Athletics. More for your thing. That's our thing. Abby Klatt, who is our producer, she must have known that I was going to ask about the defensive line. There's Justin Matabike being disruptive, and I thought, Coach, as we continue with the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show, Bobby Brown, he was terrific Saturday at Georgia.
Matabike saying he was disruptive is an understatement. I mean, and I say that. I mean, he was violent in that game. He was very powerful, and I know it was a great performance by him, and Bobby picked it out. Those guys up front were very disruptive like that. Bobby, and that penetration, those big bodies, man, it frees people up to do things. And I always say this, I don't care how skilled you are, those guys that put their hand in the dirt dictate most of the things that happen.
Man, it was something to, and what gets me is I know that Justin is getting a ton of attention. It's not like he's on everybody's radar, and to still be able to do that says an awful lot about him.
Yeah, if you don't get double team, you better, because he gets his hands on you. But he can move around. The other thing we do, he's multiple. He can play inside or outside, and he can do the things a big guy because of the power, but his athleticism allows him to play games and move around, so it makes it tougher to find him all the time.
Your linebackers, both Buddy Johnson and Anthony Hines, have said when that defensive line is doing what they're doing, we get to make clean tackles. And more, I said this earlier, but I'm thrilled because Anthony Hines lost almost all of last season. He and Buddy Johnson are quite the tandem there at linebacker.
They're doing a good job. And when you don't realize, everybody looks at, well, at D-tackle, he made 3 tackles. Don't get caught up in numbers for those guys. Now, sometimes they have phenomenal numbers, but it's the disruption and the unselfishness, taking on double teams and freeing up backers. When 2 is on you, somebody else is free, so it makes a big difference.
All I know is I looked at the stats and the tackles for loss. Aggies have 74, LSU 72. No lie.
Well, you do. I mean, tackles for loss are big, and we're getting more and more of them and creating. Again, that's the thing on offense. You always talk about eliminate penalties and negative plays and take care of the football. On defense, you want to create negative plays. Get them behind the sticks on a down and distance, and that allows things to change. And you got to have players to be able to do that.
You always say that the third down conversions are really set up by your success on first and
just
second.
Like us in the first half. We were terrible on first down. We couldn't gain yards running the football. We were in a lot of second long, third and longs. We didn't convert. Second half, we picked up third downs. We were in better situations because we were having more success on first down.
One of my favorite plays from Saturday, you had a third and you really needed the third down conversion, and you sent it. You threw it to Kagan Baldry.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
Little naked play action. Actually, the run we had later that we got stuffed, but it was off of that play, and then he came out in the backfield, and you got to, because that's the time we're down in there, and he can catch a football.
Yeah.
He's done a heck of a job for. He's another one of those unsung heroes, special teams, and whatever you ask him to do, he does. Very physical, tough guy. Kagan,
Ryan Rennick, all those guys, right? And that's just a couple. I know there are many, many more, but those are just.
Rennick, they're the glue. They're the mortar between. Everybody always says, which is more important, the bricks or the mortar? Answer is yes. You got to have the bricks get all the attention, but the mortar holds things together. And you have so many. That's what a team does. And you got to find those guys. You know what I mean? That are and also willing to take those roles.
Yeah.
And they're unselfish roles that understand, but their values to coaches are just as great as the bricks.
You guys see that? Their teammates see that too. When their teammates recognize that, right? That's when you know it's special.
No doubt, without a doubt.
Yep. He's Jimbo Fisher, head coach of the Fighting Texas Aggies. We'll continue at the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. Presented by Capital Farm Credit, this is Aggie Football from Learfield IMG College.
He's got Osmond across, inside the 10, to the 5. Oz is in the end zone for a touchdown. A 19-yard touchdown for the Aggies.
After he made that catch, there was no way Jamon Osmond was not going to score that touchdown at Georgia. We continue with the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show presented by Capital Farm Credit. Gritty is an absolute game-changing provider of electricity. They're giving Texans access to wholesale electricity with no markups, all for a membership of just $9.99 a month. With the head coach of the Fighting Texas Aggies, Jimbo Fisher, I'm Andrew Monaco. And tomorrow being Thanksgiving, I'm going to, again, this is where I go off the highway a little bit. Any Thanksgiving memories or Thanksgiving traditions for you?
Yeah, practice. We're always
with
at
no
practice.
Classes, right?
Exactly, no classes. Early practice, and we'll practice tomorrow about 1 and a little earlier. And the fellows are all eating with every coach, position coach. They're all having meals at their house tonight and having Thanksgiving dinner there. And tomorrow we'll practice, and then we'll have a big Thanksgiving dinner together as a team, and then we'll get on the plane and fly down to Baton Rouge.
So you're telling me Coach Price is cooking? Is that what you're
telling
me? Those defensive linemen, they eat good with Coach Price.
They do.
That's nice to be able to have that team together, though. And
it is. I mean, it's all about family. We got a game and all that, but we got a lot to be thankful for in this world, and it's a day to reminisce and remember. And it's about family and friends, and we're all family at A&M too. But make sure they talk to everybody and be in their families and be thankful for the things we got. And we all have issues, and we all have problems, but we got a lot of things to be thankful for too.
You get to do that every week as well on Mondays. You bring that team together and
yeah, we have family
together.
dinners and bring their families up and our kids and all that stuff, and they all eat with the team and do that on Monday evenings after practice.
That thankful part, Jimbo. I mean, I've told you this before. Being out at practice, you don't see any loners out there. It's groups of 2 and 3 and 4. To like one another is an important part of character and culture and everything else, isn't it?
It is. I mean, you got to first of all, it starts with respect. I always tell them guys, you may not like the guy, but just respect the guy. And you guys, when you earn respect from somebody, then you start to appreciate him. You end up liking the heck out of him 99% of the time. Right. I mean, that respect part is there, and then you got to spend a lot of time together. You got to be able to communicate and do things like a family does. They
can really appreciate what each other does. You talked about not just all the hours for football, but what they're doing with their classes and time and balancing everything. They know what each is doing. Nobody
understands them and what they're required to do and how much they have to do. And listen, they're blessed to have what they're doing. Don't get me wrong, but go walk in their shoes for a day. And go walk for a week or a month and understand the responsibilities they have and the time constraints. And it's not what everybody thinks it's that luxurious thing. It's just like, coach, well, you get to go coach. Well, all right, let's go for 18 hours a day and see if you get ready to coach on Saturday. You know what I mean? I mean, we love that. That's not a problem. But, those kids, and they got to understand. And that's the only, it's like you can vent and talk to people who are going through the same things you are. And it helps them get along, and that builds that bond.
It starts in August, and I think that's the biggest change. Is it's now year round for these student athletes, isn't it?
It is. I mean, back when we were in college, we stayed in summer school when you came back, but you went home in summer for a while. You had a job a little bit, you did this, and you lifted, and you did all that stuff. But it's not like, now it's 365, 7 days a week, all year long. Basically, you have your mandatory times off in the NCAA and all those things, but the time commitments for these kids now is. They're in summer schools. There's not a break. There's not a break.
Jimbo, when I see a football student athlete graduate in 3 years, I can't tell you how much respect I have for them. You talk about cranking it out and really putting your mind to something.
It is, because you got so many other things to do, and it's a very demanding, hard thing to do.
Besides the tradition of it, is that another reason why the Aggie Ring is so special? Because all that one that is earned, everything they get on the football field is earned, and that all kind of comes together.
It is. You're going to earn. You get out of something what you put in it. You reap what you sow, and in this state, because there's so many farmers. I grew up as a farmer. You reap what you sow. You don't put the work in. You don't get the food back. You don't get the whatever it may be back. And I think that's what they understand.
He's the head coach of the Fighting Texas Aggies, Jimbo Fisher. We will continue with the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. We're at Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road here in College Station. Stay with us. This is Aggie Football from Learfield IMG College. Contest and register. One winner and a guest will receive game tickets, a VIP tour of Reed Arena, and will be recognized on the video board during the game. Register today at 12thman.com/maroon contest. Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, proud partner of Texas A&M Athletics. The Jimbo Fisher Radio Show, presented by Capital Farm Credit, rolls on from Rudy's 504 Harvey Road here in College Station. We turn our attention to LSU. And I don't think the College Football Playoff Committee did you any favors on Saturday by putting Ohio State above LSU in their rankings. It's like they're not ornery enough.
No.
We never got a chance to talk about last year's game. And I like the way you were asked on Monday during the media availability. Actually, it was through Ed Orgeron saying he ran out of 2-point plays. You kind of chuckled at that, like, oh, we got the plays.
Well, you know, you don't have a chance to have that many, though. That is a lot to have in one game, that's for sure.
You mentioned something, though. Kellen called that play, didn't he? He came to you and said, one of the 2-point conversions, he said, you guys were on this. This is when you were talking about same page?
No, that was at the end of the game. We knew there was going to be 1 or 2 plays. We were going to run the last play of the game.
Oh, and the last one. Gotcha.
And we felt comfortable with it. We knew there was going to be 2 shots, and I know what I liked and he liked, and we had to be the same thing. But I always like to ask our guys plays. Mm-hmm. If I disagree, I'll explain why. Because if it's usually within, because we're on the same page a lot and we're doing it in practice and know what it is, because at the end of the day, as a coach, you're not the one executing the play. I mean, you got to feel good. It's like anything. When somebody tells you to do something, you say, all right, I got to do that, and I know I can, but, man, I don't really like that. Mm-hmm. Or it's like, I know that. I love that. You know what I mean? And if you can get that worked out in both situations, it works, and it did. And we were able to hit that. But all the 2-point plays and a lot of the situations, man, we go through and we spend a lot of time talking about them. So we understand, he understands where I'm coming from, or I understand where he's coming from.
He's that extension of you on the field and that field, right?
They have to be able to think and finish your sentences and communicate that to the field. I mean, and because you're so many hours with them.
If you disagree with him, but he is so confident that it's going to work, you defer to him?
No, it just depends. I mean, it depends on why and the reasons why. Listen, that would be good, but this right here is going to be better, and here's why. Mm-hmm. And then they get it and understand. But if it's even, and you like to have that, I like to have that because it gives him that much more confidence going into that situation.
But it's all that time you have together where you can say to him, Kellen, this is where I think this works.
Oh, yeah, we go into it. And we ask during the week. We like this better, this better, this better, this better. Let's try both these and see what we think. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then we'll go from there.
And is that the reason why you like to talk to him on the sidelines? You get a feel for the 10 guys that he's playing with?
Communication is everything. Communication and the ability to make adjustments during the game, the ability, the feel and flow of the game. And players go through ups and downs in games. You can tell when they're out of sync. You say, a guy's out of sync, and you'll see it in the game. Guy all of a sudden he can't make a 4-foot putt, and then he makes the last 7 of the round. You know what I'm saying? You keep grinding it back, and then you realize when guys are, if they're not quite in it, then you okay, let me get you a couple easy things to get your confidence back or get you going and get you flowing in the game again. And there's different things and why things are called. And or a guy takes a big hit. Mm-hmm. And he still can play and everything's okay, but he's a little shook up, so you may take some pressure off a minute, let him get his bearings back. I mean, there's hundreds of things why plays are called in situations that you got to be able to adjust and change to on the whim of the game and the feel of the game.
This offense really seemed to find that rhythm against Georgia late in that game. Started
Second
earlier
half.
Against LSU?
Yeah, we did. Hopefully we will. We need to. And we missed some blocks early. Couldn't get the running game. 2 things. We had weather and we had field position, and then we couldn't get it going. But we were patient. The big thing is don't get impatient and lose a game. You never win a game in the first 5 minutes, but you can sure lose it and put yourself behind an 8 ball. You got to be smart when those scenarios come. But we want to start fast and finish stronger. And we always talk about the 3 I's all the time. Start with immediacy, play with great intensity, and then play with great intelligence. And those are things that we're going to definitely have to do this weekend.
Let's talk more about LSU when we come back to the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. This is Aggie Football from Learfield IMG College. AT&T is a proud partner of Texas A&M Athletics. More for your thing, that's our thing. As we continue with the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show, presented by Capital Farm Credit, with the head coach of the Fighting Texas Aggies, Jimbo Fisher. And Saturday, 6 o'clock, we'll kick it off, the Aggies and LSU. And yeah, Jimbo, 3 number ones you're going to face in once. This has never happened. We had that confirmed. 3 number ones in AP in one season. You always said opportunities. These are opportunities.
Listen, it's measuring you're building this program or getting it to where it wants to go. But sometimes you don't know the standard. For kids, I say people don't know they don't know, or I've never seen that level of. Well, we're seeing the level of ball, and which is great because now you're measuring yourself. You can see you're close. You can see, or if you're not close, you can see what their weaknesses are, what those teams do, and not just physically, but how they handle situations, how they handle momentum swings, which we talked about, how they deal with turnovers, how they deal with success, how they deal with things aren't going as well, how they deal with there's a mindset that goes with winning and winning championships. Everybody talk about it's a culture, it's everything. It's everything that touches those kids, and when you do that, then they can take it to the field, and then their ability to take it to the field, and then to decide, you know what, I'm not losing today. I joke about that. It's what it gets down to. It's like in our life. Every time we say, I've had enough, I'm not doing it. It doesn't happen anymore.
Right.
It's like me. When I during the season, I get to working out and say, you know what, I'm going to lose some weight. All right, I'll do it. Or you don't lose weight or whatever. There's enough's enough. And there's times that you have to do that. Now, you have to be you have to have talent to do that at the high levels, and you have to know how to do it. And we're there. We just got to make that mind up and then take it to the execution part and get there. And I think we're getting very, very close, and we're going to get tested this week. That's for sure. You,
in an atmosphere like Georgia at number 4 in the college football playoff, LSU, I know at number 2, but they've been number 1. Can playing in both places help? Having played in Georgia,
there is no doubt they'll all help. And whatever listen, history is your greatest teacher. History is your greatest teacher, and you have to have experiences. As they say, you got to be in the cockpit to get that experience, and you got to be in the saddle. You know what I mean? We're getting in those situations, and it's going to help us for the rest of this year, and it's going to help us for the future where we go and how we do things.
You talked about Georgia likes to run to set up the pass. LSU a little bit different now.
Yeah, LSU is a little more open, and they're really throwing the football. Joe Burrows, the guy's thrown for 4,000 yards, and then within the 11th game, he's 78.8% of his passes. I've never heard of that.
No.
At the level he's playing in the competition. It's phenomenal how they're playing offensively, and they're running the football.
Right.
They're playing great football, and they're going to score points, and their defense is they've given up some points, but their defense is very talented. There's 2 or 3, 4 guys going to go in the first round off that defense now. And there's a bunch of good players there, and how they play, and they got a great team. But listen, I think we got a very good football team too. I really do. We're not where we want to be and any of that stuff, but I love our kids and where we're at and our ability to compete. We'll be there. We'll be there.
Jimbo, I can't wait for when everybody's schedule comes out in the future and they say, man, we got to play Texas A&M.
Me too. I can't wait when they see that helmet and that bus roll into town and hell comes with it, and they realize that they don't want that to come into town. That's what I'm looking forward to. But we'll get there. We'll get there.
It's coming. It's coming. One more segment of the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show, presented by Capital Farm Credit. When we come back to Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road here in College Station. Stay with us. This is Aggie Football from Learfield IMG College. This copyrighted broadcast is an exclusive presentation of Learfield IMG College under the broadcasting rights granted by Texas A&M University. Reuse of this presentation is prohibited without the express written consent of Texas A&M and Learfield IMG College. Announcers are provided by Learfield IMG College and Texas A&M. The final segment of the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show, presented by Capital Farm Credit. Aggies and LSU on Saturday, 6 o'clock kick, 5 o'clock with our pregame show, presented by CHI St. Joseph Health. But that's not the end of the season, because bowl game and more practices, Coach.
Get our 15 practices in like another spring and develop these young guys and get these older guys, going to that next step and getting in, moving forward and hope to finish this off right. And bowl games, I love bowl games. I mean, I really do, and it's very important, I think, to finish your year the right way.
I know there aren't a ton of seniors on this team.
Yep.
You have reminded all of us that even though a player may be here 4, sometimes 5 years, each year is its own separate squad, and you like this. They're only together so many days, right? So many practices. You like to make the most of it.
Each team has a 1-year life expectancy, and then really it's a 6-month by the time you bring the freshmen in. That's all that group of guys is ever together, because somebody's going to leave. That's why that chemistry and that bond, and that's why it's so important for the upperclassmen to understand the standard of how things do, so the young guys can get adjusted very quickly.
Not a lot of seniors, so that means you do have a ton of people coming. That experience coming back is really, those 15 days, those practice days can really mean a ton.
They are, especially these young guys and the playing. And there's times now, if you're not in your 4th game, you can still, as a young guys got a chance to get in bowl games as young freshmen. And it's amazing how many guys develop during that year, in that rule.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's going to be anxious to see, and I'm anxious to get those guys developed.
It's going to be a whole lot of fun. Your freshmen aren't playing like freshmen any longer, Coach.
Nope,
that's what's really
they can't.
They've
already got 11 games under the belt. They're not freshmen anymore.
I harken back to the coaches' nights around the state, and I remember you talking about DeMarvin Leal, and as you're talking about him, I'm like, you know what, Jimbo never goes overboard with anything, and the way you were talking about DeMarvin Leal and just watching that youngster play, he's something special.
He is. There's so many of those guys, and like I say, he didn't get his chance because other guys quite as early as many reps, but man, he's developed into one heck of a football. Big, athletic, strong, and got a tremendous future ahead of him.
He's another one, inside, outside. You talked
exactly
about the
right.
versatility.
I mean, 295, 300-pound guy that plays on the edge, can go inside. Those guys, you just don't find them like that.
No, and you're going to need that defensive line disruption on Saturday, aren't you?
Oh, no doubt. You're going to have to affect the quarterback, and Burrows does a tremendous. He has as much feel and moxie, as I say, the old word moxie, in the pocket, feel presence and pressure, and understands how to get rid of the ball and where everybody's at, and just does a tremendous job. And then he is very, very athletic. If you go back and watch that film, man, he hadn't had to run much. Like last year, he broke out as a runner against us with quarterback runs and things. And but you watching those games, in the Alabama game, there's a lot of big scrambles and runs and things that he just gets a feel for and knows how to do.
That's that momentum, right? He can, just when you think you have him.
I got everything, and that's what that's what kills the team. I got everything fixed, and all right, he scrambles and gets the first down like that. I mean, I got all these holes plugged up. You know what I'm saying? Or if I come off to do it and he throws the ball, I mean, that's what great players do. And they've got other guys besides him, but he makes it go.
And you say effect. It can be a tackle for loss. It can be a sack. That would be
move
great.
His feet, get his vision down the field, bat a ball, tip a ball, get in the lane, make him throw it high, get a hit after the throw. I mean, there's different ways you got to affect him, but those good ones, man, it's hard to get to them.
You get off to a fast start, that would be big things on Saturday.
Well, we need to do that and get our confidence going early in the game. That'll be a great environment, because it'll be a very tough environment.
Along with the balance, right? You love the balance, the run, the pass.
You got to be able to take pressure off of guys and make them play, the complete game on defense.
Coach, we started this in September. This is our last one. Absolute
pleasure.
pleasure.
It's been unbelievable how fast it went by.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, my friend. Thank everyone for coming. It's been awesome. It's been a great year.
Cannot thank you all enough for being here week in and week out to the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. We can tell you that we are with you this Saturday. It will be 5 o'clock with our CHI St. Joseph Health pregame show with Dave Elmendorf, with Will Johnson. I have a lot of stuff. Will will have a one-on-one with Kellen Mond during the pregame show. A chance as well to catch up in their own words when you hear from the Aggie players themselves. Dave has his keys and so much more during that CHI St. Joseph Health pregame show. That comes your way at 5, and then at 6 o'clock it will be the kick between the Fighting Texas Aggies and LSU. That will be all along the Texas A&M Football Network. My time to thank my engineer here, Kevin Menchow. Being every week, my appreciation to him. He's she's going to be with us as part of our crew as well on Saturday. And Abby Clyde is the producer of the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show, presented by Capital Farm Credit, as well as every Aggie football game and every Aggie basketball game as well. To Kevin, to Abby, happy Thanksgiving to both of you. All of you who joined us here on Facebook, thank you all season long. All of you here at Rudy's, thank you so much as well, week in and week out. We appreciate that. And if you've joined us all year on our Texas A&M Football Network, thank you for making us part of your week. For the head coach of the Fighting Texas Aggies, Jimbo Fisher, I'm Andrew Monaco. Thanks so much for joining us. This has been the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show, presented by Capital Farm Credit from Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road here in College Station. And this is Aggie Football from Learfield IMG College.